Hey Toy-Addicts, this is Jody and it's time for another What Sold video. We're gonna say what sold this summer. The last video was kind of different, and so I'm gonna start about mid-May. So if I covered some of this in the last one, I apologize. This time we're gonna cover all the prices. I had some pretty good sales. May especially was really well. June and July have definitely been seller slowdown months. Let me know if you guys are experiencing the same kind of slow sales in the summertime. I used to not really have that. You know, a lot of people say, oh, summer slowdown. And I used to not really see that, but the last couple of years I really have. So, and you know, some of that might be summertime. You're a little busier, not listing as much, although I've been trying to list a lot more, so we'll see how the summer goes from here, right? So just to recap, in case you haven't been here before, my name is Jody. Toy-Addict is my channel here. I have been selling on eBay since before eBay was eBay, when it was still called Auction Web. So that was like 97. I have seen a lot of changes of eBay through the years. It's been very interesting. I do focus on toys. That's my favorite thing to sell, but I am an everything seller. So you'll see a lot of different stuff here. I don't mind selling low price point items, especially because sometimes I'll buy like lots. I've done a couple of estate sale clean outs. And so everything that's in that, I'm going to try to sell if I can. So you'll see some lower price point things, but also when I'm doing those, I try to think about, is it going to be easy to list? Is it going to be easy to store? Is it going to be easy to pack and ship? So for instance, you know, these stickers here, I sold them for $12, but that's so easy to list. You really only need 2 pictures of it unless there's some damage to the package. Super easy to store. You could get hundreds of packages of stickers in one box. Super easy to ship. You just put it in an envelope and send it off on its way. So, and things like stickers, sports cards, greeting cards, patches, small flat stuff like that, has a special rate with eBay called eBay Standard Envelope. And so a 1 ounce is 69 cents, 2 ounces is 88 cents, and I believe now 3 ounces $1.23. So you can get reasonable rates on shipping for those things too. So that does make a difference. Okay, let's get into it. I don't pay a whole lot for things typically, but if I do pay up for something, I'll let you know. If I forgot to say how much I paid for it, it was probably $1 or less. All right, let's get started. These stickers I just mentioned, $12. I paid about 10 cents for those. This card here, this is a Sandy Lion sticker company card. This is from the first year that they made stickers, from 1983. And it sold for $65. Quite a rare card. Also paid 10 cents for that. This is a lot of vintage little boys' infant clothes. I bought a whole box of clothes for $10. Also had some dolls in it. Sold the first doll for $10. So that covered the price of everything. Sold a dress out of there for $55 and have made some other lots. So it definitely was a pretty good box of clothes. This is Lola Hot Springs Resort postcard from Missoula, Montana. That sold for $8. Sandy Lion, another Sandy Lion sticker sheet. I paid 10 cents each for those and got like 60 of them. This one sold for $15. This is a 16 millimeter film called Bernice Bobs Her Hair. I got a bunch of films for free from a local school district. This one sold for $25. This is a Fiesta Ware candle holder. I had a Fiesta Ware collection and I'm selling off some of that collection now because I just don't have enough room to display it. So this was from my collection and it sold for $25. This is a vintage tint stick. It looks like a lipstick, but it's actually a for tinting your hair. It's from the 1950s, and this is gold, so ladies could have gold streaks in their hair. This sold for $18. I did pay $5 for this at a vintage store, Three Daisies Vintage. Another Maxi Activity Sheet sticker set from Sandy Lion that sold for $35. This is a paper doll card that I paid 25 cents for. That sold for $8. Holly Hobby card. I went to an estate sale where I got a ton of ephemera, these stickers, and a bunch of Holly Hobby cards, which I think a few more of them are going to come out. And I averaged out things to about 10 cents each. So that sold for $25. This is a Build-A-Bear monkey that sold for $8. There are some valuable Build-A-Bears, but not a lot. Courtney on Bolo Buddies has a couple of really good videos showing some of the most valuable Build-A-Bears, and so you should check that video out. This is a candlestick telephone candy container. Still had some candy in it, probably from the 70s. That sold for $8.50. Now this one here, this was $155, but it was actually 3 sets of these vintage 70s, like I believe it was 1974 Playmobil people. I paid $15 per set, or 10. I think it was 10. But I sold 3 sets for $155 to the same person. And this is a Barbie booklet. If you've watched other videos on my channel, you know I like to scan booklets and let you see those. They're really good for information purposes for resellers and collectors, and they're just cool to look through, you know. So I'll pick up these booklets. I know that most of them don't sell for very much, but it's mostly for the scanning, right? And then this sold for $5. Vintage Oregon Outdoor Guide pamphlet. Love buying little pamphlet and ephemera at garage sales, estate sales. You usually can get it for less than $1. This one sold for $9. They tend to be on the slow end of sales, you know. People call it long tail, but again, how many of these can I get in a box? Like hundreds upon hundreds, right? So if you don't have a lot of space, sometimes that's a good item to sell. And some of them do sell really well, much better than $9. This is a pair of high heel doll shoes that fit Kitty Collier, Miss Revlon, a bunch of different dolls. They were like a generic pair. They sold for $8. And some Susie Zoo stickers sold for $6. This vintage Barbie for Tootie puddle jumpers outfit from 1966 sold for $15. And this super cute book, Gopher's Loafers, sold for $16.75. This is a vintage Estee Lauder long-lasting lipstick. I bought a gift box set, an Estee Lauder gift box set probably from the 90s that still had unused the eyeshadow and the blush and the lipsticks and perfumes, and there was all kinds of stuff in the set. I paid $10 for the whole set. There were like 12 items in the set, so like less than $1 each, and this sold for $10. This is a Little Kittles Baby Diddle set. This sold for $50, and I paid $15 for her. And this is a postcard that I got in a lot, so I probably paid a couple pennies for it, and it sold for $4.50. 5 is usually the least that I'll list postcards for, but it's been around for a while, so I took an offer. This cute little Mickey Mouse picture frame was part of my collection. I decided to let it go. That sold for $9. This is a pair of Flava's doll shoes. It's like a Barbie size doll set. That sold for $10. And a Tammy doll outfit that sold for $11. This is an Avon Unspoken Cream Perfume that sold for $10. And this vintage Mickey Mouse Hallmark stationery set sold for $15. And I paid $5 for that at a sale. These little Phineas and Ferb plush sold for $40. I sold a another from this plush set. I think it showed up before this, and I did do a video specifically about it. One of the characters, and she sold for $175. So keep your eyes open for those Phineas and Ferb plush. And that was a This Is My Bolo video that I did, so go back and check that out because you want to see her and get to know her so you can look for her. There's a Photo Play magazine that sold for $12, and a small little lot of My Little Pony baby items that sold for $13.50. This is a Canby High School yearbook, The Cougar, that sold for $25. I got that in the free pile at an estate sale. I don't pick up all yearbooks for sure, but this one was really embossed and kind of cool looking, so I thought, oh, why the heck not? It was free. This is a Boston Market like takeout menu from the restaurant from the 90s. We don't have Boston Market restaurants here in Portland anymore, unfortunately. But this sold for $7.50. And I got a big lot of like takeout menus and stuff from a sale for $1 for all of it. So I probably have 5 cents into it or something. These two Bert and Ernie bumper cars I paid $5 each for, so I paid $10 for the set, and they sold for $60, and they sold pretty quick. This is a little Tweety bird. He sold for $7. He's just a Christmas ornament, like a Hallmark Christmas ornament. He didn't have his box or anything. This interesting little hand puppet here is Jerry from Tom and Jerry, and he sold for $10. I have this Cheesecake Factory Harrington teddy bear plush. He sold for $10. And these were also in my collection. I like little kind of medical tins. So I had these ones and decided to let them go. They sold for $13.50. And I bought a couple of lots of plastic dollhouse furniture. And I think I paid like $4 for the bag, and I bought a few baggies, so maybe I have about $2 into this little couch or chair, and it sold for $15. And then this Raggedy Ann puzzle sold for $9. Those wood puzzles, I mean, I'm sure there are certain ones that do pretty well, but for the most part, I picked that one up years ago, but I don't pick them up anymore. This cute little Department 56 Peekaboo bear sold for $10, and he's mini, like that tall. He's a little guy. This Lancome Trésor mini travel spray, 0.16 ounces, so also a little mini, sold for $15. This Faultless ice bag sold for $10, and then this Goody Bouffant shower cap sold for $20. I learned from Bolo Buddies that Goody brand things can be pretty good. So when I saw this for, I believe, $2, I picked it up. And it took a while to sell, but $20 I was happy with. This is a little lot of 8mm movie film reels. And I got these in a free box, and they sold for $12. This Jadeite green glass sugar shaker. Didn't have a top, and the sugar part was partially coming off, but I paid $5 for this at a thrift store, knowing that it would sell, and it was too pretty to leave behind. And I sold it for $15. Susie Zeus stickers for $9, and another teeny tiny little perfume that sold for $10. Tycho Dollhouse Baby. I got this in a big lot of other dollhouse stuff. She sold for $9. These seashell cufflinks sold for $10.80. I had a sale going, and I got these for free. 1928 Art of Society Makeup by Max Factor booklet. This is probably the third or fourth of these booklets that I have found, and they usually sell for $30 to $40. This one, I believe I got $37.50 for it. And then this scarf. It's a scarf by Vera. Usually when I see scarves, unless they have like a designer name on it or something, I won't pick them up. But this one was pretty. It was silk, and I paid, I think, 50 cents for it, and it sold for $15. This is a Mary Kate and Ashley graduation doll. She sold for $45. I paid $15 for her. This Empire Plastic 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue White House model set was from the 50s. I didn't know if it was complete. I had got it in an estate sale clean out I did a couple years ago, and it took a long time to sell this baby, but it did sell for $31.50. This is a ink blotter. I actually went to a postcard show recently, or I thought it was a postcard show. It actually ended up being a stamp show with one postcard vendor. But I picked up quite a few cards from them that I thought were interesting, and this was one of them. And it actually isn't even a postcard, it's an ink blotter, but it was about safety on the St. Paul Railway, and it sold for $30. And this is a little chic shaving set. I thought this would be better than it was, but it sold for $9. This is a vintage Halloween glow-in-the-dark gummed label set. This actually came out of an old Dynamite magazine. Do you remember those in the 80s and the 70s? I guess it's 1977. That sold for $12. And this vintage C&Say Hunchback of Notre Dame sold for $17.50. This little Old Spice shortcut hair grooming oil, I guess it is. I'm not sure. It sold for $12. Vintage health and beauty items. As you'll see in my videos, I like to sell health and beauty items. And I always put a message in the description that this is a vintage item. It's meant for collectability, not meant for use. If someone still wants to use an item from the 50s or the 60s or the 70s, that's up to them, but I let them know that's not the purpose of my sale. This is a Disney Store Phineas and Ferb, another Phineas and Ferb character. This is Candace, Phineas and Ferb's sister. She sold for $35, and I paid $1 for her. This is a cute snowman plastic mug. It's a Deca mug from the 80s, and it sold for like $22.50, I think. This is a Hasbro Strawberry Shortcake doll from a few years ago. She sold for $9. Here's another one of those tint sticks. This one wasn't unused like the gold one. Someone did want to put black in their hair, and this sold for $13. This is a set of Pentel crayon oil pastels for artists, 48, and this sold for $19.80. I like to pick up vintage art supplies, office supplies, stuff like that. People like, things that they originally used, and some of the formulations have changed, so people like to use the older style supplies sometimes. Not everything, just like anything else. There's good things in the category and not great things in the category. And this, only sold for $19.80. It wasn't a great sale, but I think I have another sale coming up that I'll show you that was much better. This is a set of Betty Wells paper doll pages from magazines, and these sold for $13.50. And these are two little like hotel-sized dial soap bars that sold for $9. This is a bottle of Avon Skin So Soft bath oil that sold for $25, and an Avon Sweet Honesty perfume that sold for $9. Yes, most people stay away from Avon, and for $9, that's not great, but this Skin So Soft for $25, I'll sell that all the time. So I tend to pick up Avon things. Like if I get perfumes, I'm not getting the bottles with the shapes and stuff, unless it's a kid's item. If it's specifically meant for kids, then I will pick some of those up. But sometimes when you come across Avon, they want to sell like a whole box of it. So sometimes you'll get some good things in the box and some things that aren't great. And again, I'm the kind of person I'll just list it. So this was a Martha Stewart Martha by Mail cookie cutter set, and they are copper, and they're real copper, and they're like very heavy. I paid $10 for this at a garage sale, and I took an offer of $65 for it. Here's some Mr. Doodler markers. Again, vintage school supplies, office supplies, art supplies. These sold for $15. And if I find vintage markers, I'll just do, you can kind of see in this picture here, I just tested all of the markers. And I'm sure I have another picture in there where I have the marker laid next to where it's tested so you can see which ones work and which don't. People will buy them still if some of them don't work. People have ways of getting them to work again and stuff. But I leave that to the buyer. Most things, if it needs to be fixed or needs to be cleaned, I'll leave that to the buyer. First of all, it wouldn't be worth my time to try to make vintage markers work. And then secondly, sometimes people want to do that on their own, so I'll leave it to them. This is a Muppet Babies paper doll book that sold for $11.25, and this is a vintage Santa Claus card, and it sold for $11. This is a Maxfield Parrish Edison Mazda collection book. I picked up this book for $2, and there were 4 old, antique really, because they were from the 20s, calendar toppers that this art was produced for. There was the Edison Mazda lamp company had commissioned Maxfield Parrish to make some art for calendars that they were going to use for their advertising. And so those calendar toppers, even though mine were in terrible condition, still sold for between $35 and $55 each. And they were just cut off. The tops of calendars just lobbed right off. So, I didn't know anything about these. I saw the book. It was $2. I took it home. I was thinking, people would probably like a Maxfield Parrish book. And I didn't even know those were in there until I got home and started looking through it. So that $2 price tag got me $15 back for the book and close to $200 on the calendar toppers as well. This is metallic blue yarn by Reynolds. I don't know. It was an old art supply. The spool that it's on is metal, and then this is like aluminum foil kind of. I don't know what even it was, but somebody knew and they bought it. $9. Next, here's another Avon item. This is a vintage item, more vintage than your typical. Avon got really popular in the 70s, so they made a lot of stuff in the 70s. But this is even earlier than that. This is 50s. I paid $12 for this set at an antique mall, and it sold in one day for $50. So I was pretty happy with that turnaround. It's not typical for a lot of Avon stuff to sell for that price, but there are some Avon things for sure that sell for much more than that price. This is a Walt Disney magazine that sold for $9. This is a carved stone armadillo paperweight that I took an offer of $11. I paid $1 for this guy in an estate sale. I just thought he was cool. It took like 2 years to sell, so I probably would not buy another one of those, but he was pretty neat. This is a Daisy Kingdom quilt panel that for someone to finish, and it sold for $9. And then they also bought some other parts of it as well. I think I gave them a deal on these for like $6. I've had this stuff forever. I actually did some projects with it myself and gave it to some friends and stuff, but I just didn't end up using all the panels. So I sold several of them. These earrings, they're clip-on earrings. They sold for $9. I got them for free. Here is a Rembrandt soft pastel set. This was a larger set than the other one. It has 45 pieces. This sold, I paid $3 for this at a garage sale, and it sold for $40 in about 2 days. And then this is a Gerber baby switch plate. It's like a nursery decor, sold for $6. I had it forever. And this is a paper doll greeting card that sold for $8. George Fox Interpreted. It's a book I picked up at a estate sale for like 50 cents, and it sold for $20. $11 for a Kohl's Care Dr. Seuss, Put Me in the Zoo. The Kohl's Cares, most of them don't sell very well. This is a strawberry shortcake vintage promotional materials for shoelaces. So it's 2 pieces of paper that just promote shoelaces that stores could purchase to display and sell. And that sold for $6. I had several sets of these that I bought in a lot. This is a Hamilton Brown Shoe Company Victorian trade card that sold for $5. Mickey and Minnie paper dolls sold for $11.70. This composition doll, she's 15 inches. I tend to buy composition dolls. A couple of years ago, I bought a Buddy Lee composition doll that was really nice and sold for $500 in like 20 minutes. So it really got me into looking at and trying to find good composition dolls. A lot of them don't sell for very much, especially right now. It seems like people aren't nearly as interested in them as they once were. But I only paid like $2 for her, and she sold for $18.80. This is a zebra mug from my personal collection that sold for $10. And another piece of jadeite I bought at that same thrift store it's the cover to a butter dish. And I paid $5 for it, and it sold for $15. This is a box of Maxi Thins. A lot of these vintage, health and beauty items, like I said before, people collect old Kotex and Maxi Thins and stuff like that. And they could be used for props on movies or fillers in grocery stores for TV or commercials or whatever. So this actually sold for $8. Here's an old Applebee's paper to go menu that sold for $10. 2 vintage toothbrushes sold for $10. Some marked dollhouse items sold for $10. And this Barbie baby sold for $9. These 3 vintage Thomas Dam troll dolls sold for $38. And these 2 cassettes from Breakin' and Breakin' 2 sold for $18. 2 Weeble Wobbles sold for $13. This was a nice find here. This was a model train that I bought at Goodwill, of all places. It was the only one on the shelf, and I paid $6.99. I saw it sitting there, and I thought, that looks like an interesting box. It was all faded. You couldn't really read the tag very well, and so I just picked it up to check it out. And I ran a comp on it in the store, and it said $125, and I was like, wow, okay. So I listed it for $125, and it sold in about 2 or 3 days for $125. This is a bottle of Preferred Stock cologne that I got for free. It's a vintage cologne. Again, when I have vintage colognes and perfumes, I mention in the description, this is a vintage item. It's meant to be collectible, not for use. Over time, perfumes and colognes can lose their scent, so it may not smell like you expect it to. So people buy them anyway. $20 for a old bottle of Preferred Stock cologne that probably sold at Kmart for like $2. This little mouse, his name was Charlie. He's a raspberry mouse, and I paid 50 cents for him at an estate sale, and he sold for $18. Nightlife in Nashville in 1969. This was just a little like travel brochure. Sold for $15. And this little Hasbro Dollykins, she sold for $10. Satellite Motel postcard from Beaverton, Oregon, sold for $8. And this is a lot of just Barbie hats. Random Barbie hats and a helmet. A couple of helmets. It looks like a baseball hat. And those sold for $8. And this is a Barbie Fashionistas doll. I had her and used her for a model for listing Barbie clothes for a long time. And my sister said, oh, she's a good one. So I looked her up and she sold for $16. So there you go. This is a Q-Tex push-up lipstick tube in the color Pink Goddess. This is vintage. The lipstick is not, it's unused, but it's still not looking great. So again, this will have my, this is a collectible. This is definitely not for use. And I make sure and show good pictures of the lipstick itself so people can see that it's no longer in good condition. But people still like it for the tubes. Some people like to collect all the colors. This is a Disneyland postcard from Tomorrowland. I had 8 of these, and this person actually bought all 8 of them for $5 each. So that was nice. This is some Bic Round Stick Easy Glide pens from 2007. They had an interesting cell phone ringtone ad on them, so I sold those for $10. And 2 more medical advertising tins from my collection, sold for $10. This is a lot of Barbie's clone shoes. Clone meaning fake, basically. It's not made by Mattel. But people do collect those. So, and once in a while, you know, I like to buy Barbie clothes and shoes. You've seen me sell tons of different Barbie shoes. And I'll buy lots, and then I just separate out all the non-Barbie items and then put them in a lot together over time. And those sold for $15. Another one of the items that I really like to sell are menus. And I actually have a video kind of telling you what to look for if you want to look for and get into selling vintage menus. So make sure and check that out. But this one sold for $20. I bought a lot on high bid I paid about $4 per menu on that lot. And then this one sold for $20, but some of them went for much higher. This was a little vintage Christmas banner. Said Noel on it. It has a couple of little angels. And that sold for $11. And this is a Barbie twist and turn swimsuit, just the top. That sold for $13.50. These are 3 Top Frost frozen juice cans. They were open on top. And I just saw them at an estate sale. At this estate sale, the person did a lot of storage of tools and just miscellaneous stuff in cans of all different types. They would just cut the top off of like they had a whole thing of knitting needles in a Raid can. And, you know, a lot of the cans were interesting, but a lot of them were really rusty and stuff. So these are the only 3 I picked up for $1. And they sold for $15. This is a Snoopy. It was kind of one of those special edition figurines, and that sold for $20. And this next thing is interesting. It's called Bedanglers, or Bedangles actually, and it's a lot of like bead curtains, and then it had like all kinds of different information inside of it of different ways that you could use to display these bead curtains. All of their ideas included you buying like 35 boxes of these, so I don't know how likely it is that people use them, but they're kind of cool. This is 12 pages from a vintage Sears catalog of like Barbie and doll items. This is a 1981 Mego Love Boat Isaac action figure. I bought this for a lady who had a bunch of different toys on Facebook Marketplace. I actually got the Playmobiles that we talked about earlier from her too. And I paid $10 for this, and it sold for $85. And I still have another one, so if you're in the market for Isaac from Love Boat, I'll give you a deal. This is a Avon Little Blossom finger puppet. It sold for $9. I was on Commonwealth Pickers Dibdit site recently. They were doing some auctions, and I bought a few books on auction for about $10. And this was in the lot, and this is the art of John Byrne, and it ended up being an autographed book as well, and that sold for $45. This is a little Bluebird Polly Pocket car that sold for $15, and a Department 56 Christmas ornament hanging penguin that sold for $15. I was at Goodwill a while back, and they had some half-price plush. These little sloth guys. I paid $2.50. They were Target clearance, and Goodwill, if your Goodwills end up having, you see a bunch of stuff from Target, they actually buy that stuff by the pound from Target. So it's not actually donations, it's actually purchased from Target. But, so it was, brand new from the store, just nobody bought it in the store. And it sold for $18.40. That was pretty cute. Little Betsy Clark candle holder sold for $15. And this scrapbook of ads and fun kind of stuff sold for $28. This is a little Travel Lodge Sleepy Bear mailer stand-up table tent kind of thing that's also kind of a postcard. I don't know. I thought it was interesting when I picked it up, and it sold for $15. This little thing here, even with this picture, it was really hard to photograph this. It's a tiny little Swarovski crystal, basically a title. If you bought a bunch of Swarovski crystal Lion King items, then you would also buy this to put on your display case to say these are from the Lion King. I mean, I'm sure you could probably tell that. But anyway, I paid $1 for it at a garage sale or an estate sale, and it sold in just a couple of days for $33. I like, more of that kids' clothes. I love picking up little kids' clothes sometimes. This is a little navy sailor suit, sold for $15. This is a little clear basket, not something I would typically pick up. I got it in that estate sale clean out, and it sold for $9. And this is a Polly Pocket Polly in Paris suitcase compact that sold for $30. Williams Sonoma Winterberry fragrance kit. Whenever I see the name Williams Sonoma on something that's in the package, I'm going to look it up because stuff at that store is expensive. So I think I paid $5 for this set, and I had it up at a higher price, but it just did not sell, and it eventually sold for $28. And here's another Polly Pocket compact. This sold for $30. I paid $5 for this. This is a ballerina tutu pig pillow doll from Spring Mills. It's one of those cut and sew fabric panels. I like to pick those up. They don't typically sell for very much. There are some that do well, just like anything else. But I don't know. I have an affinity for them, so I always tend to pick them up. And this one sold for $13, and she sold pretty quick too. I usually pay $1 or less for them. This is a cute little dollhouse sized tea set that I got for free at a sale recently, and it sold for $10. Another one of those Holly Hobby cards that sold for $15. This was a neat little Betsy McCall mail order paper doll set from the 60s, and it sold for $20, and I believe I paid $4 for it. I paid 50 cents for this little Department 56 Christmas ornament, and it sold for $15. And I paid $2.50 for this vintage restaurant menu from Hollywood, California. The restaurant's called Melody Lane, and I thought it had really great graphics on it. It sold for $20. A little less than I would have liked, but still happy with that. Crater Lake National Park Visitor's Guide sold for $10. And these Tootie doll Barbie vintage 1966 tights sold for $15. These are Whiffy's Skunks. There were some like mystery pack thing a while back, and the two of them sold for $15. I picked up this little picture of people in a law office. I like to pick up photographs if I think the content is interesting. You know, not just a family portrait or anything, but some kind of interesting content. And I was actually able to, through my jeweler's loop, see the name on the law office door here. And so I found out, did a little digging and found out that it was a law office in the early 1900s in Spokane, Washington, and the name of the lawyers and everything. And it sold pretty quickly for $35. This is a Tammy doll, kind of like a crinoline skirt. It sold for $11. Here's another one of those composition dolls that I picked up. I paid $3 for this guy and sold for $50. This is a little Barbie dress that sold for $12. And this is a little porcelain doll that I picked up for about $3, and she sold for $25. Here's another menu, Sheraton Fontanelle Hotel. This is in Indiana. That sold for $30. And this is a magazine article about Marilyn Monroe that sold for $10. Not the whole magazine, just an article out of a magazine. These are some clone strawberry shortcake shoes that sold for $9. And an organ embroidered patch for Fort Stevens that a friend gave me. She just had an extra one, and that sold for $5. These Susie Zoo postcards sold for $7. This was an extra from my collection. It's a strawberry shortcake garden house gazebo bottom part of the barbecue. And that sold for $7. This was a pretty neat Avon set. This was, it's called Avon Scrub Away Nail Brush and Soap. It's actually a pink pearl eraser that on the back of it is like a hard bristled nail brush. And then it came with a bar soap. But it's like a crossover with the pink pearl eraser. So people who collect school supplies might enjoy it. Avon collectors. So I picked that up. I picked this up at a antique mall when I went to a trip to the beach, and I paid $3 for it, and it sold pretty quickly for $30. This is a Martha Birch Renaissance Bear, artist signed mohair teddy bear. This is a one-of-a-kind bear. I bought a lot of teddy bears, probably about year and a half maybe ago, and I ended up paying about $4 per bear. And the first bear that I bought sold for $300, so it paid for the whole lot. But they've done pretty well. And this one sold for $75. I took an offer on that one. And I have gone through and lowered my prices on those for the ones that are left. Because they are kind of big and space consuming. But I know a lot more about artist teddy bears now, so that was a good education. This is a little Energizer wind-up toy. He sold for $15. He has little stickers that come out the front of his drum. as well as being a wind-up toy. So I thought that was kind of an interesting cross kind of toy to have the stickers and be a wind-up. I don't know. It was interesting. Here's another menu. This is Abe's Sea and Sirloin Restaurant in Shreveport, Louisiana. That sold for $25. And this strawberry shortcake doll sold for $18. I was at the library about a month ago, and they have a little room where they sell donated books and books that they took out of circulation. And so I bought this one for $1, this Granny Square source book, and that sold for $20. So think about, you know, if you have like a Friends of the Library type of situation where they do book sales or something, you might be able to get some good books from that. This is 2 sheets of Coca-Cola stickers. Those sold for $10. And another kind of candy container glass hat. This sold for $10 as well. That came from that estate sale clean out. Here's another menu. This is from the French Lick Sheraton, also in Indiana, and that sold for $30. And this is a Bath & Body Works Sparkling Icicles 3-wick candle. I paid $5 for this, and it sold for $18. Some of the Bath & Body Works candles can do really well. I've sold some for $50, $60, even $70. And this one, I actually thought it was a different scent. So I probably would not have paid $5 knowing it was going to sell for $18. But it actually sold really quick. So I was good with that. So here's that Avon Skin So Soft. I actually only had one of these. The last one I showed you, it was the person canceled the sale. And then they didn't have enough to buy it, I think. And then they came back later and bought it again. So usually if somebody cancels, I'll block them. But I didn't, and they came back and bought it. So there you go. There's a little swimsuit that sold for $7. I bought a bunch of swimsuits years and years and years ago at Goodwill, like 90 swimsuits for kids. And this was one of the last ones. I think I have one left. I knew they would take a long, long time to sell, but I paid $1 a suit. So I was getting more for them way back, but now I've kind of lowered and lowered and lowered. They were all brand new. One of those things from Target, you know. Here's another Avon item, perfumed powder mist Imperial Garden. This sold for $8. I got a couple of Herself the Elf dolls from a garage sale a couple weekends ago for $1 each, and this one sold for $22. This is just a Barbie dress from Caboodle's Barbie. That sold for $6. Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor restaurant menu sold for $20. Sears catalog, 6 pages of dolls. It sold for $15. And then a couple weeks ago, went to some garage sales, and in the middle of the afternoon on Saturday, I found this Nintendo DSi for $25. And it sold in probably 3 or 4 days for $85. So I was happy with that turnaround. This harness for Fisher-Price Little People horse sold for $14, and this Galoob My Pretty Dollhouse sold for $15. This is a Book It button that sold for $10, and a CD player that I got for free that sold for $24. And I think I'm going to stop there and then share the rest of July with you guys in the next video. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know this was kind of a long one. I tried to like skip out of some of the stories of things I tell and stuff, but still end up being a pretty long video. My throat was so dry for this video, so if you see me stopping to take a drink or whatever, I apologize, but that's how it has to be sometimes, right? It's hot outside right now. It's very warm, so it just is what it is, right? It's a hot day, and I had to turn off my air conditioning in order to record the video. All right, guys. Well, if you made it this far, would you give me a unicorn in the I can't even speak now, in the comment section, just to say, hey, I made it through the whole thing. And also, some of you I know will make it all the way here, wanting one angel. I'm sure you're still here. And Heidi, thank you so much, you guys, for always being really supportive and watching the videos. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.